Hey guys, MaxLPQueen here, and welcome back to some more Pokemon Emerald Randomizer Nuzlocke Speedrun mouthful, of course. And we are just gonna jump in here, and you better hold on and you better get ready because this is gonna be a pretty long episode. I had my episodes all screwed up, and my times all screwed up. So I didn't realize that I was going over, but I didn't want to stop in the middle and not finish something before I went to the next episode. But we are going to be taking on the trainers, probably avoiding a lot of them, because this episode we're going to be catching all of the Pokemon that we can catch in the routes and the caves and everything else. And that's going to take a while, so it might be a little while, and it's going to be a pretty long episode. But I have plenty of articles for us to read about Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Of course, though, we do need to talk about what happened in the last episode. I think I have it here. Must be episode 24, maybe? We defeated Team Aqua, and we obtained our Electrode and our Quagsire. It was a pretty short episode, if I do say so myself, but that is a problem on my end, and I did mention that in the last episode as well. We had to rush through the last Nintendo Life article, which I did not mean to do, but had to get that done because we only had 10 minutes, and it took me about 10 minutes to read the article. But we have plenty of time in this episode. We're going to catch all of our Pokemon, like I said, for about the 1,000,000th time. And we made it to Moss Deep City, though. So we can actually catch a Moss Deep City Pokemon. And it's going to be this Charmeleon here. And I am not upset about that one bit. Because if something does happen to our Torkoal, we got that Charmeleon back up there. That Charizard, super powerful. We're also going to go back to the Shoal Cave, I believe it's called. And we're going to catch a Pokemon here. And I do want to say that this would have been my encounter, but I did not look and I did not see that we changed routes because I kept running away from everything. This was Route 125, I believe, and I could have got that Regice, but I decided not to. Well, actually I didn't decide not to. I just ran away because I thought we were still in Moss Deep City. Turns out we weren't, though. So I believe I actually forfeit another capture later on, or I end up not catching one on this route because that was my fault that I forgot, and I just totally spaced out. And then I come out of the cave and I was like, this is a new route, isn't it? Dang it. So I wasn't able to catch one in there, and then I think it'll all equal out, because I do believe that when we get in the cave, we're not going to have very much fun in there either. But continuing on here, I have another article that we can read on. It's a pretty short article, but I thought we should talk about it because it is important. I mean, to me, it's important because I am a female, and this is about some gender stuff that's going on in these games that we haven't addressed, that we're going to address. The reason why I stopped here before we read this is I was trying to remember if we had a Mankey, and I found out that we do have a Mankey, so I ran away from the Primeape and I didn't catch it because it would be a duplicate encounter, and then I decided to go ahead and catch a Graveler, and turns out I killed the Graveler with a critical hit, so I thought that kind of made up for us not being able to catch me running away from the one on Route 125, because I did, you guys can see there, I went in and I went out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Route 125, and this would be my encounter, but I already caught one, or I actually ran away from that Regice, so it wouldn't be my encounter. But anyway, this article is on themarysue.com. It's about some gender issues that we have in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. It says, as a gamer, I know all about hype And now, in retrospect, sometimes we overreact to small things. And one of the silliest overreactions I've seen recently was the sheer demand for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire demos. That's right, not the game, the demo. It's easy to forget, considering the game comes out in just a few days, but back when they were first released, the demand was so high that those trying to get a download code from Pokemon.com's monthly newsletter sometimes got emails stating it could take up to a week for them to generate all the codes for everyone. Of course, if you've ever played the original Ruby and Sapphire versions, it would be easy to sympathize with the hype. But at the end of the day, it's still just a demo, and much of the game was left out. You basically pick a starter Pokemon one level away from evolving to its final form, and learn about how the new Mega Evolutions work. You can keep replaying for additional small missions, but each one is no more than a few easy battles here or there. The majority of the joy gained from the experience derives from the revamped music that is now iconic of the Pokemon series, as well as experiencing a few new aesthetic and small mechanic upgrades. It initially seems greedy to expect too much more of what isn't even the full game, and is explicitly advertised as such. But several of my friends and I couldn't help but notice that the demo gives a lot more exposure to the male protagonist, Orlando, than the female protagonist, Anna, which of course we know as Brendan and May. For those who don't know, Pokemon games have allowed you to pick your gender since 2000, when Japan released Pokemon Crystal, and while this is the very first demo they've ever released before a full game, this is also the first time since Crystal that this feature was left out in the main handheld series. Not only are you forced to play as the male protagonist, but the female protagonist is depicted as weak and in need of the male protagonist's help. May is first introduced when Team Aqua is going to attack, and rather than using double battles to take them on together, a feature made common by the very games they are remaking, Orlando takes them on single-handedly, one at a time. May clearly wants to take them on collaboratively, and Orlando waits for his moment to shine, alone. May's primary purpose in that scene is to heal your Pokemon. She then sits by while higher-ups from Team Magma and Aqua attack Orlando at once. And at this point, the player might think, oh, I guess they didn't program double battles into the demo. I guess it makes sense that May would sit on the sidelines so the player could win single-handedly and experience more. But then Steven, a famous character from the original version of Ruby and Sapphire, and the functional tour guide of the demo, comes out of nowhere and agrees to take on the battle together. So that theory is shot down pretty quickly. Part of the reason this small detail is such a big deal is that Pokemon prides itself on customization, allowing it to be very much the personal player's experience. Between getting to choose between what is now over 700 Pokemon for your team, and most recently, being able to choose your race and attire as well. Representation in the game has met a steadily increasing standard throughout the series. The demo lets you choose your starter, nickname the Mega Pokemon that you capture and send to your full game, and even customize the order of your action icons, despite the demo only having 2 of them. All of which point to the customization being a priority even here. So when gender representation just happens to be left out, and when one gender is obviously doing the harder battles, it feels very much like a step back. Feel free to let other protagonists tag along in any time now. When discussing this with less feminist inclined friends, I hear all sorts of defenses that include it's just a demo. They couldn't possibly put every little thing in it. Hackers have proven this to be false. Within a week or so of the demo's release, those far better at coding than I am were able to crack open the game and check what data was there. They found that the demo contained all sorts of unnecessary data, including the names, levels, and Pokemon of various trainers one may encounter in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. The Oris demo also contains a saving feature that allows you to continue where you left off and transfer some Pokemon and items obtained to the real Oris game when it comes out, further implying spatial adequacy. Okay, so there is more, and we are going to read on that in just a minute, but we gotta read what's going on here and figure out what our take is on this, because my take is pretty much the same as hers, if it is a girl. That yes, they are showing a lot of love to the male protagonist. What about May? She's just become this stupid little girl who doesn't know how to do anything and has to rely on a male to get things done, which is not true at all. And I kind of didn't like that. I mean, when I started the demo, I was automatically put in as a boy, and I didn't like it. I mean, why would I? I'm a girl, I want to choose a girl. It's just weird that we have to resort back to what we used to be, because they took the time now. If you played the games, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, if you played up to Marvel City, they took the time to change things, okay? Because I don't want to spoil it, but obviously there is spoilers, so if you don't want to hear this part, you should probably fast forward just a few seconds. But in Marvel City, the game corner is not there anymore. It's gone. So we've made the step up that it's okay not to gamble anymore in Pokemon games. So why haven't we decided that it's okay for males and females to be portrayed equally? And people are just saying that the demos, you know, like they were saying, the demo, it's just a demo. They'll be in the originals. No, because the hackers have proven that that's not true. As you guys can see on screen though, we did capture that Mew, and I felt a little bit better about capturing the Mew because I did miss out on a Regice. So if anything happens to our Mewtwo, we're definitely going to have that Mew on standby there. And we're going to be able to catch more though in this route here. We have a new route, Route 28, and we're going to catch one on Route 29. We're just doing a bunch of Pokemon capturing in this episode. But anyway, the article here has a little bit more that we want to read on. She's talking about what some of her friends have been saying about it. So let's read the next one that they're saying. They're saying, let's see. It's more complex to have a full sprite character swap, though. That's something that would be harder to do. Admittedly, my knowledge of coding can't argue too strongly here, but I can't help but notice that Steven will interchangeably switch between riding on the back of Latios or Latias when taking you places, and when the game randomly generates repeats of missions and trainers you face will still be swapped out for other ones. If Steven's Pokemon can change Ginger's, why can't we? So that's another thing there. And then another one says, it's really not that big of a deal. They'll have the female protagonist as playable in the real game. They were probably just rushing to get the demo out and didn't think people would care. Don't take it personally. Okay. Now she states, now we're going to get to something worth discussing. In some ways, this kind of statement is absurd. It took me years to finally understand this, but the mere phrase, don't take it personally, can be one of the most useless phrases in the English language. For one, it is seldom that anyone will ever hear that phrase and instantly feel better thinking, you're right, I'm making this all about me. I should just relax. Okay, everything's great now. Most of the time when someone is at that point where something is being taken personally, it's because on a personal level, there's something that's bothering them, and to tell someone that it's wrong to feel that way doesn't make either party all that happy. Admittedly, there's likely a kernel of truth to this statement. That the Pokemon Company International probably wasn't making a malicious statement that women are weak or not worth putting in the demo in the same light as the male hero, but rather just flat out didn't think about how that admission would represent and consequently affect the women who play this game. Sure, ignorance is an excuse, but this kind of institutionalized misogyny misogyny, I believe, does real harm, especially in the gaming community, but ignorance and malicious behavior are often resolved in different ways. And one thing that is true of all people, man or woman, adult or child, is that the moment something becomes personal is the moment people stop wanting to cooperate or compromise. Many interpret my critique of the demo as one of a few things. They either see me attacking a demo that the whole world is hyped about, or they interpret claims that people can be sexist, as they claim that they personally are sexist, and that something is inherently wrong with them. And naturally, they'll get defensive about that, because much like the programmers who made this mistake, they're not necessarily intentionally being malicious or misogynist, but they probably don't see things the way a feminist would. Someone from their perspective doesn't want to have to face the fact that the way society has taught them to behave is sometimes not okay. Because it is far too easy to assume that if a person is doing something sexist, that he or she has failed as a compassionate human being. One almost wants to tell them to not take it so personally. An issue like the Aurus demo's failure to adequately represent women is not one that will be solved with fire and pitchforks. It will be solved with education. The same mind that didn't think it was that big of a deal is the same mind that would defend their logic with statements like the ones above. Because at the end of the day, no one who is genuinely trying to be a good person wants to feel like they missed something so obvious. Don't get me wrong, there are no doubt some maliciously sexist people who genuinely believe these things are the way they should be. But most of the time, I find resistance to feminism to be just a combination of fragile ego and preconceived notions that are flawed. You can only assume it was accidental for so long in scenes like this, where May is saying, "But you and your Pokemon, Orlando, you might be able to win where I couldn't." So, basically, I'm not reading this article as something that I think. It doesn't really matter what I think, because at the end of the day, people are going to think whatever they want. But to me, yeah, I do see where she's coming from. Personally, I know that they have given the male a lot more credit, because in the opening scenes of the game, where the credits start, or whatever you call it, I'll play the game and I watch the intro a lot of times, and every time I see Brendan riding his bike, not May. And in the old games, you could sometimes keep restarting and you would see May. Do we see May? No. I've seen Brendan every single time. Now, I'm not sure if that's true, because a lot of times I do skip the opening scene. But if you guys have seen May, then you're probably somebody who has, obviously knows that it's not true. But I haven't seen May, so that part kind of annoys me a little, because I really think it's kind of rude to not use the female character and think that everybody's going to pick Brendan, because I didn't. But anyway, she has I believe she has a little bit more here. We're just going to read this, and then we'll talk about the rest, because we are almost done with this episode. Pokemon as a series has improved in so many ways over the years. Each generation brings smoother processing, more balances to the metagame, and all sorts of new and neat Pokemon. These improvements came about because developers were willing to consider that the way they were doing things wasn't the best it could be. Without that open mind to change and the willingness to look for places where things aren't quite right, the games we get so hyped about wouldn't be worth playing, even in a demo. We don't want to settle for that in our video games, so why settle for it in the way we look at society? I said at the beginning of this article that I felt the hype for Aura's demo was probably an overreaction, given how little there was to it. But when it comes to getting hyped for others, or myself, better understanding feminism, I don't quite feel the same way. So if you're someone who doesn't identify as a feminist, or someone who gets moderately uncomfortable when you read about the urgency expressed in this or other feminist articles, don't get defensive, get hyped. We feminist gamers are not monsters when we're angry at sexism, and we're not nitpicky when we find little details and call them sexist. We're just a generation who has experienced feminism in its demo version and can't possibly be more psyched for the full release. Alright. So basically she's just trying to say, yeah, you know, we're not saying this as to be rude or to be mean. We're just saying it because, well, we're hyped and we want to play these games too, but we just want the recognition that we deserve because we don't live in that society anymore where a male is more dominant than a female. I believe we don't. I mean, we probably still do in some places, but here I don't believe that. Not for a second. I think that females can do just as much as males can. So, yes, the demo has flaws, but it's a demo. Not the real game. We shouldn't really be too concerned about it. I played the demo several times. And the first time I ever played it, I wasn't saying, "Aw man, I don't get to choose between Brendan and May. I have to be Brendan." No. I wasn't thinking about that at all. The only thing I was thinking about is, I'm getting to play the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire demo, and I'm super hyped for the games, and I want them to come out now. That's the only thing I cared about. And a lot of people probably felt the same way. I mean, there's probably plenty of female YouTubers, or just females in general, that play Pokemon that didn't really care. They'll post that demo on their page, or upload it, or they'll play it and not even care, you know? It's not that big of a deal. But actually, I do make a cut here in a little bit. We are going to a new route, and I did skip over that last route. So we are in a new route here, and we can catch a new Pokemon. But unfortunately, I have to cut because I have to go all the way back around to get back to that little route that I actually missed, and I skipped because I went on the wrong little wavy thing. But really, the only thing you can find around here is Whisper and Nidorino, which both we have. We lost our Nidorino, so duplicate. And then Whisper, we have a Loudred, so it would be duplicate to catch the Whisper. Believe me, I stayed here for a while, and this is all we come up with. So I decided that there's not going to be anything that I'm going to be able to catch over here, but I can't go back the way that I came, so I have to walk and surf all the way back. Because we don't have a Pokemon that can learn Fly, I don't think. But you guys can see, I tried for a really long time to be able to get a Pokemon. And I even tried to leave and go to Slateport and then come back, but still Nidorinos and still Whismers. Nothing new. So I have to make my way all the way back to the other side, and then we can catch our last Pokemon that we can catch in the game. Steelix was actually in Slateport City, so wasn't able to get Steelix, but it would have been nice to have. Anyway, this is the area here where we can catch our next Pokemon, and I didn't know you could catch it on the wavy parts, so I went ahead and did that, and we can catch our last encounter, I believe, of this episode, which is going to be a Crobat. And I believe we are going to take a look at all the Pokemon that we have captured, and we're going to look at them all that we have seen thus far and caught before we end off the episode, after I catch this Crobat here. So once we do that, I will make my way back to a PC, and we will take a look at them. I believe I do the PC at Slateport City, so I will have to get back to Lily Cove, or not Lily Cove, Moss Deep in the next episode. This Crobat, though, is being really mean to me and just won't get in my Pokeball. Finishing up the article, though, I'm just going to end it saying this. I'm not a feminist person. I really don't care if it was Brendan or if it was May. I don't care because I played the originals, and the only one that you could pick was Red or Ash, depending on whoever you named it as. Oh yeah, we have Pidgey though. I forgot we have Pidgey, and I put Fly on Pidgey. Or dead Pidgey. We had to put it back in the death box now, though. Get Crobat out. And get Medicham out, because I had to move somebody to be able to fly. So, let's check out our Pokemon that we caught in this episode. So we caught a Charmeleon, who is a timid nature, which is increased speed and decreased attack, which probably isn't the best for Charmeleon, but if we make him a special attacker, I guess it wouldn't matter too much. We have our Mew here, who is adamant, and that's increased attack and decreased special attack, which means we're going to have to teach this Mew some physical moves if we want it to be any good. Then we have our Magnemite here, a naughty nature, which would be increased attack and decreased special defense. It knows Thundershock, Supersonic, Sonic Boom, and Thunder Wave. Grimer, bashful nature, which is neutral, and it has Stench that repels wild Pokemon. Machop, hasty nature, increased speed and decreased defense. It knows a lot of fighting type moves though. And then we have our Clamperl here, quirky, which is a neutral nature. Blocks critical hits though with a shell armor. Unfortunately, we can't evolve it because, you know, we can't trade in this game. It's a ROM. And then we have our Spearow here, who is also a quirky nature, which is neutral. And our last one we caught, Crobat, naive nature, increased speed, decreased special defense. That is all the Pokemon that we caught in this episode, so we did a whole bunch in this episode, and my voice is hurting so bad from talking for 30 minutes. So if you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to watch more of my videos, and comments are always appreciated. You can leave them down below. I will see you guys in the next episode of our Pokemon Emerald Randomizer Nuzlocke Speedrun. See you guys later.